You're putting your sweat and tears into the development of a game, then you upload it and nobody gives a damn. I've made a lot of games nobody has cared about myself, which sure is fine, we're making games for fun after all. Just kidding, of course you want your game to be played. Which leaves us with the question, how the hell do you make people give a damn about your game? After years of making games, I think I'm slowly starting to figure that out. So here are my top 5 tips for you. Tip number 5, you need to give a damn first. Play a couple of games from other developers, leave some nice feedback, then after that ask them if they want to play your game as well. If you're really just sitting there with 0 downloads, not knowing what to do, then this is the way to go for sure. Get involved in discussions online, not even just the ones about game development, also the ones about gaming. Don't sit there expecting a favor from everybody if you're not willing to give anything in return. If you care to engage in conversations, people will very likely check out your game if you ask them to. Is that a way to get thousands of downloads? No. But is it a way to reliably get a couple of downloads? Absolutely. Which makes this strategy a good point to start. Tip number 4, build an audience by providing value. As a game developer, I highly recommend you build an audience somewhere, whether that's on Twitter or on YouTube or maybe on a podcast or on a blog. Doesn't really matter. The way to build an audience on any platform is by providing value to them. People want to get something out of following you. People want to get something out of consuming your content. And that can be information, that can also be entertainment, but there needs to be something. Just simply showing off the progress you made on your game does unfortunately not have any inherent value, except for the people who already care about your game, but the goal is to get more people to care about your game, and just showing off the progress you made on your game doesn't cut it, so you need to find a way to make it either informative or entertaining. This is pretty much the same thing as the last point. If you want people to care about your game, you need to care about them. This is just on a little bit of a bigger scale, so yes, this can actually get you thousands of downloads if you do it right. Tip number 3 for making people care about your game is to get them involved in the development, either really actively by bringing them into your team or simply by acknowledging that they gave you feedback, thanking them for their feedback, implementing some of their ideas into the game. All of that makes people feel like they're part of the development process, which doesn't only help you out, but also makes them care even more about your game because they're part of it now. And your job is to acknowledge that, to encourage that, put them into the credits if they've really helped you out. Like, this won't give you thousands of downloads, but what it can give you is a very dedicated core fan base. This can be a real win-win situation for everybody, where everybody gets to be part of something awesome, so leverage that. You guys have helped me out so much with the development of Will You Snail already, from giving feedback to helping me with the translation to helping me with playtesting. You have made a big impact on this game already, and you damn well know it. Even by watching this video, you're basically helping me out, so big thank you. Big thank you to all of you. And now, after I've said that, do you feel more invested into the game now? Just as a little experiment. But of course I 100% mean what I've said. Thank you. But Jonas, what if nobody wants to get involved in the development of my game? Go to this timestamp right here. Thank you. Tip number 2 is to get your game in front of people as often as possible, because there's a very interesting psychological phenomenon where the more often you see something, the more you like it. It is strange, but the simple act of looking at something actually makes you care about it over time, which is why consistency in your marketing is a huge advantage, and is also why I think announcing your game launch plenty of time beforehand is quite a good idea as well. Like, if you remember all of the games you've bought lately, is it games you've only seen once, or is it games you've seen plenty of times before you bought them? For me personally, it's the latter. The question you might have is, how do you keep getting your game in front of people multiple times? Like, the easiest way to do so is, of course, in your own channels, in your own community. That's where you have full control. You can just keep posting, which is one of the reasons why building an audience is so useful. But ultimately, the answer is keep trying. Like, if you've only tried once, if you've only posted one link to your game and nobody downloads it, that is actually no surprise. Tip number 1, by far the most effective one in my experience, is appeal. You need to make an appealing game. When you see a screenshot of a game, appeal is what makes you go like, I have to play this game. When somebody tells you about a game, when somebody shows you a video of a game and your response is, I must play this game, that is due to appeal. Or in other words, appeal is one of the only things that can make you care about something instantly, even if you're seeing it for the very first time. Unfortunately, appeal is very hard to pinpoint. Like, it's hard to decipher what creates appeal, what makes for an appealing game. There is probably no formula, but I refuse to believe that, so I came up with a formula regardless. And I think at the very least, this is a good approximation of how you can create an appealing game. Ingredient number 1, you need sick looking graphics. Your game just needs to look super nice. It needs to be visually pleasing, needs to look interesting, needs to look unique. Nice graphics. That's the first thing you need. Ingredient 2 for creating appeal is a compelling fantasy. The fantasy is basically a combination of what you do in the game, the theming of your game, the setting, if you will, And that makes a big difference. That's why there are Star Wars versions of chess. That's why there are thousands of versions of Monopoly. Because simply changing the meaning, simply changing the fantasy has a big impact on the experience. My definition for a compelling fantasy is something you would like to do in real life if there weren't any negative consequences or if there was no risk attached to it. For example, something like being the owner of a theme park, being able to build and design your own theme park. That is a strong fantasy for a lot of people. And same counts, of course, for being a ninja, being a soldier or whatever. There are a lot of compelling fantasies out there that of course appeal to different kinds of people. All you have to do is picking one and making sure your game delivers on it. The third ingredient kind of brings the previous two together. You need visuals, you need graphics that communicate your fantasy. From looking at a screenshot, it needs to be possible for people to know what the core fantasy of your game is. Because that is literally the only way you can have that wow moment where you're like, oh wow, this game is about being a ninja. I love being a ninja. And oh, it also looks so epic. That is what brings it all together. If it just looks nice, not enough. If you have to read it up somewhere what the game is about, not enough, because nobody will do that. You need all three of those ingredients at once in order to create appeal. Appeal is difficult to create, but it's the golden grail. It's the life hack, it's the cheat, it's the godly power that makes people care about your game magically. Will appeal give you thousands of downloads? No. Because it'll give you at least 1 billion trillion downloads.
Have you ever asked yourself why you're here? You taught me how to manipulate and kill on your behalf, so that's what I did. And then everybody is how you catch a bowling ball. Perfectly executed. I'll make you suffer once I